inclusivity, inclusiveness, which is a very hot topic right now. And it's something that things like our agency always try to do. It's to make sure people have equal access and opportunity to services, to anything. And it's for, despite whether you're physically disabled or mentally disabled or a part of a minority group. And there's many of those that have been discriminated against, as we all know. So the inclusiveness is drawing attention to the fact that everyone deserves equal access and opportunity. So that's really basically what that means, and Claudia will have a lot more on that. I want to give everybody a COVID update. That's kind of my thing. Everyone's heard of the Delta variant, correct? Well, the Delta variant is taking a very strong hold on our country. All 50 states, the Delta variant has affected. Cases are up. We have hospitals overflowing once again, and we actually have to believe we're going through this again. But the facts are that 94% of these cases are amongst the unvaccinated. So if you're unvaccinated and considering, this might be a good time to do so, because that who is being infected. There are also cases of vaccinated people being infected by this, maybe a small margin, like 3 or 4%, but they are not symptomatic or having mild symptoms, but it still can also expose children and other people, so it can still spread the virus. I mean, the bottom line of that is, if you allow the virus to mutate, it does, and it has. That's what the Delta variant is. It's COVID virus that is mutated, and it will always look for host. And as long as there's people unvaccinated, there will be host for this virus to spread. So just please be mindful of that. The Department of Health still insists that we wear our mask, vaccinated or not, when we're delivering personal care or delivering services to anyone. I mean, that is the Department of Health rule. So please practice that, because even like I said, you may have a client that might be okay with that, but you know what the family member is saying, and it will all come back to you and us. So it's just play safe. And we also still don't have all the data on how this variant may affect. They're finding that it's been very effective so far. How it may affect elderly people, you know, and immune-compromised people, and people with chronic conditions. So just please all be mindful of that. I know we are, but that is really what's going on with the Delta variant. The viral load from having COVID is a large number of virus in your body, so the viral load is very detectable. They found with the Delta variant, it's 1,000 times the amount of a normal COVID virus infected patient. So that just shows you how efficient and quick and contagious this disease is. It hits people and hits people hard. It's even making young people sick. So just like to keep everybody, if you ever have questions, I try to keep up on this every day as news comes in. But you know, for the most part, if you're vaccinated, you're pretty safe. You know, the two vaccines, Moderna and Pfizer, are like 90% effective to this virus. And the J&J is only proving to be about 60% effective for this variant. It's more effective for the virus, but for the variant, so you're probably safe, but like I said, always exercise caution on everyone to stay safe. Thank you, Claudia.
Sure. I had an opportunity to get to the Michener Museum in Doylestown, and if you get a chance to do that, it's a very interesting art museum, and it's not huge, and you can really spend a nice day there. And they had a whole photo exhibit on essential workers, and they gave you an opportunity. They gave you some 4x6 cards, and you could write something down and put on the bulletin board, so you know I included you too. But Rich helped me. I wasn't able to get the pictures. They're on my phone, but he was able to transfer what I had gotten from the written information next to the photograph. So I'm going to share just 3 of them with you. And the one was from a kindergarten in Doylestown. Short Stacks is a kindergarten pod led by Larissa Lawley Hopwood. Our school focuses on social, emotional learning, creating a culture of kindness, celebrating diversity, bringing inclusive and believing in social justice. Now, do remember this is kindergarten, but this is where we need to start. Highlights from this year included hosting a food drive, picking apples and cooking with them, composting our lunch leftovers, listening to records, and I'm not quite sure what this means, but smashing the patriarchy every Wednesday. This spring we will be hatching chicks, planting a garden, and continuing to learn how to make our world a better place. Meet your future leaders, innovators, and problem solvers. And they showed a picture of their kindergarten class. And the names would tell you about the diversity. The next one was a picture of a dilapidated, absolutely dilapidated threadbare hat. I rented a cottage on a working farm. This is in Doylestown during the COVID-19 pandemic. Farm work never ceased, and the hands showed up at 5 a.m. because animals needed feeding, pens needed cleaning, and eggs needed collecting. As store shelves thinned, the little shed at the bottom of the driveway was gridlocked. Locals bought eggs for their quarantine baking endeavors. Walter, a farmhand from Guatemala, tirelessly worked to help feed the community. Because Walter's hat was in such deplorable condition, he was offered a new one and declined because he didn't want a handout. The third picture was from Lower Marion Township. When I observed the dedicated and professional manner in which David Scott conducts his essential work for Lower Marion Township's refuse and trash collection, I was inspired to photograph this image of him. It's equally essential to convey his sense of responsibility and the cordial manner with which he brightens Tuesday mornings on our street. And Tuesday mornings happens to be my trash pickup at Abington. Healthy, productive environments require cleanliness and order. That's part of what you participate in every single day. And our home, school, and success in business depend on clear, unencumbered settings in which to thrive. So I do want to thank you for each and every one of you being essential workers. And we are coming from many different cultural backgrounds. We've talked about this before. Angela Nunez is our excellent social worker for the Navigator program, and in 2017 she gave us a very good presentation. And I'm going to use her opening remarks as a reminder. What is culture? Culture is a shared set of belief systems, values, practices, and assumptions which determine how we interact with and interpret the world. It may include foods, dress, holidays, art, music, religion, and language, as well as norms, traditions, and spirituality, but on the most fundamental level, it determines the way in which we perceive the world, how we assign meaning to what we see, and how we respond to it. Now, we all have things to learn. You're never too old to learn from other cultures, to learn other people's experience. So one of my team members shared some of this information with me, and I printed it for you because I'm going to need your help with it. So the first one is conversation ground rules. I know that after 76 years of life, there have been times when I put my foot in my mouth, quote unquote, as an expression, that too quickly I said something and then realized that the person I was talking to, that was definitely something I should have avoided. So it is part of our human experience to be more sensitive to others. Pam, can you help me out with number 1? Oh, no, you can't, because, no, I made a mistake. I made a mistake because Pam, there's a vision, and we vision limitations and concerns for our patients, so there we go. I already, number 1, starting right out, made a mistake. Charmaine, would you help me with the conversation ground rules, that first sheet in the file? Okay, take your clip off. Here we go. Clip your key off, because, you know, I do not want to be the speaker from start to end. Are you able to read?
No, that's the thing, I can't see.
Oh, okay, because it is. Wouldn't you know it?
Fine print.
Okay, wouldn't you know it is fine print? Okay. We do understand that questions we ask and statements we make, then we can improve upon them. So we want to assume a positive intent. The first sheet that I shared with you, if you're able to see any of it, conversation ground rules. Okay, number 2, you engage in dialogue, not debate. In other words, when we're talking to patients or people that we're meeting, this is not a debate. This is a conversation that should go both ways. Number 3, hold yourself and others accountable for demonstrating cultural humility. That's the first time I ever heard that, and I get it. I get that sometimes we would feel that our own culture has superiority. And so cultural humility tells us that that's not the perspective we should have. Number 4, be open, transparent, and willing to admit mistakes. Number 5, embrace the power of humbly listening. I could see where that would be a benefit in a lot of relationships. Number 6, create trusting and safe spaces where a little bit of discomfort is okay. A key here, and it is faint, I'm sorry, but with my bifocals I can, be open to trying different approaches. Different people will feel safe in different ways depending on cultural background experiences and expectations. Number 7, commit to having conversations that matter by speaking up to bridge divides. Be willing to speak up as a champion for inclusion. When you witness difficult situations or exclusionary behavior, bias, and discrimination. In other words, there are diplomatic ways that if we see that others are saying hurtful things, that we could step up and make a positive suggestion. The next sheet that I had shared with you, because I want you to save these, we can all learn from them and help others. They're giving examples in this flip the script with race and ethnicity. They give examples of what somebody would say and then what that impact might be. So here's a statement. We don't see color, only people. Ignoring differences can stifle trust. Authentic communication and your ability to connect with someone who is different from you in some way. Research says that it is not racist to see a person's race or ethnicity. It is a fact, a natural tendency Avoiding conversations about race to maintain neutrality will not create an ideal work environment for all employees. Okay, what should we do instead? Ask your colleagues who have a different racial, ethnic, or cultural background than yours if they feel that your workplace honors their identity and experiences. The second example, you were so articulate. That sounds good. The impact is that you imply that you had lower expectations, possibly because of the person's race or ethnicity. Research says that this reinforces the stereotypes that people of color and ethnic minorities are less competent than their white counterparts, and that those who are successful are the exception to the rule. So what do we do instead? Provide concrete examples of why and how you felt that the individual excelled. For example, your presentation was very motivating and it aligned with our business goals very well. Staying to facts. Third example, she speaks English very well. The impact is that it insinuates that racial or ethnic minorities are outsiders who can't speak English, and they don't really belong where they live or work. The research says that people of all races and ethnicity can speak English well. What to do instead? Unless the person has previously struggled with the English language and has made vast improvements, it's better to congratulate your peer on the content of their work. And I think this applies to like patients and other people that we meet at the grocery store or anywhere else in our life experience. And so you have other examples given here, and I wanted to share them with you because I think that we do all need to pay attention to your words, thoughtful and carefully chosen, yet not to stifle as to stifle an open discussion. Learn from others. Ask your colleagues if they have ever experienced or witnessed biased behavior. What did it look like? What was said? Be accountable. Ask a colleague, can I count on your help to give me honest, constructive feedback if I use words that are hurtful or offensive to you in the moment or later? I've had Indian friends in the past who are Sikhs, and I have noted that they wear turbans, the men wear turbans, and you know, you do see in public that people are kind of staring or you know. I know that we've had a very hard year. All of us are very much aware of it. A very hard 2 years. And some terrible things have been happening to people. And I know that when there was that particular situation where the Asian women were murdered, I have 2 new Chinese families on my block. And I went to Krantz and I bought flowers and I wrote a note to them and said how happy I was that they had come to my neighborhood. I think we can't solve the world's problems, but we can look at small ways in each of our lives that maybe we can show kindness to somebody else. I felt that was my privilege. I did not feel like it was brownie points. I felt like it was something I needed to do because the news was telling me about how frightened elderly people were. And I remembered being part of the Jewish community in Manhattan when I was a student nurse, And I remember one elderly woman in our building who was pushed down and her handbag stolen and her hip fractured. So, you know, we all want to be a positive influence in our communities. There are other papers that I shared with you because I think they're worth learning, that we have things that we can learn to do better. And so I hope that maybe I can buy you magnifying glass. And that'll help you, and I'd be happy to do that. I should have thought of that. That should have already come to my mind because I got a number of them at home and I use them. So I ought to know from my own personal experience that I ought to be helping my own team. Okay, so these things specifically deal with creating connections, not conflict, in tough conversations. And tough conversations are difficult for all of us. You do begin to feel uncomfortable, and then you kind of feel like withdrawing. You know, it's hard to be creative in a positive way to heal the situation. But it's important that if you don't have something nice to say, don't say it at all. And don't tell people, I've heard this already. I'm married to somebody that tells me that frequently and says, I have heard this 1,000 times before. You know? It irritates me. So I bet it irritates other people too. Here's another one. Oh no, here we go again. What to do and say? It sounds like you have a strong point of view. Help me understand how you see this issue. Maybe that'll save more marriages, I don't know. Okay, so you have more examples, and I think they're worth looking at. Here's one. I'm not sexist. What to say instead is I acknowledge that I have biases that may be bubbling up here. I'd like to have a courageous and honest conversation to help me uncover my blind spots or see things from a different perspective. Okay, and the final paper is on cultural sensitivities in global workplaces. Now, we don't get on planes or trains, so, but actually the globe is coming to us. I think in the years that you have worked with us, we've had a wide variety of people from many different cultures, and that's going to increase. So we can learn from other people. And I heard a statement that said, you are unique. And so is everybody else. And I think there's a huge amount of wisdom in that. And one of our 100-question skills tasks, those that have been with us for so long don't remember it, but maybe Connie does, she's newer, and that is that all people have similar needs. And that is what we need to keep in mind, our humanity. So pause before you speak. Take the time to make sure you're making outdated or uninformed assumptions that will be harmful to your colleagues and work environment. Expand your knowledge. be inquisitive, learning about other cultures, religions, and regions that are different from yours, and encouraging inclusive interactions. Be a champion. Advocate for better cultural practices in communication to ensure everyone feels accepted and valued in the workplace. And I did try to invite the young Chinese family that lives next to me to dinner. They had other plans the day that I have a hard time doing this too far ahead. I kind of live moment to moment if I feel I can pull something off. And I make sure I'm not doing filling and graving and too many things that complicate the dinner. But they very quickly, Danny said in reply, can we have a rain check? So maybe each one of us, with the patients that you're talking with, what I enjoy about home care, and that this isn't Medicare, we don't pop in for a couple weeks and then go. We are long-term. We do have an opportunity to ask about their experiences as children and what their family was like. And you can hear stories that are enormously beautiful, and you can hear stories that are enormously sad. But what I've found being here is that if somebody really knows your interest, they're very grateful for your listening ear. We have material that we give out when a new employee, and this is something that the Pennsylvania Department of Welfare has, meeting the care needs of residents in a culturally diverse environment. I wanted to be sure that you all had an actual copy of that. And several years back, we had the special committee from Abington Township that deals with cultural diversity and inclusiveness. Abington Township has very specific laws about discrimination in housing and in other places. But we serve a broader community than just Abington. Now, I know that you might not have noticed that I tried to color coordinate this. No. But I'm old enough that what I've heard in the past is America. Love it or leave it. Well, here's what Claudia wants to say. Serve it and solve it. We each are needed. Our children are needed. Our grandchildren are needed. We just have a window of time where we can make change that is needed. They're going to have enormous problems on their shoulders if we don't repair roads and bridges, if we leave a huge amount of debt with them, if we make them not feel welcomed and loved and needed. So that is what I'd like to leave you with today, because I think it's totally the bigger picture, that we need to serve. What you do every day is honorable, whether you're picking up trash, cutting somebody's hair, cleaning up the commode from a patient. And I've never considered anything menial, and I have taken my turn at it. So I thank you for the outreach you each make for the VNA-Community services. It is why we are here. And I want to encourage you to continue to put your intelligence and your care. And I want to thank you. If anybody has something to add to the subject matter, we're open for discussion.